Round one of the NFL draft is officially in the books. We're going to go through and we're going to grade each selection, and I'm going to tell you what I think. We're going to start off with the Chicago Bears. They ended up picking Caleb Williams, the QB out of USC, and everybody knows that's an A+. I got to take that and run. That's a fantastic pick. At number 2, the Washington Commanders selected Jaden Daniels, the quarterback out of LSU. And that selection there is a little bit more of like a B for me. I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels. However, I'm not going to pan the pick. They needed a quarterback. He's mobile. He should fit Cliff Kingsbury's system really well. So I think that's probably about a B. At pick 3, the New England Patriots took Drake May, the QB out of UNC. And for Drake May, I got to give this an A. I'm very high on Drake May's potential. I do know he needs to put in some work, but I think a lot of that's because he's young and he came out of the air raid. I think the Patriots, one of my favorite teams, got a steal in this one, and I'm so excited. And honestly, it's one of the first draft picks in a while that I actually want to go out and buy a jersey for. At pick 4, the Marvin Harrison Jr. went to the Arizona Cardinals. This is another A. This is a fantastic pick. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a great player, and I think the Cardinals made an excellent selection. They didn't overthink it and trade back. They got themselves a blue chip player. At pick 5, Joe Alt, the left tackle out of Notre Dame, went to the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, this one here, I'm actually going to grade out at a B+. I love Joe Alt, the prospect, but I think the Chargers honestly, they need to get receivers in there. I don't know what they're thinking. I know you have Justin Herbert, but look at the NFL nowadays. You need a star receiver. They had 2 of them staring them in the face, and I feel like they, went a little bit too old school, and it's the reason I'm a little concerned about how Jim Harbaugh's going to kind of translate to the NFL nowadays, because I know you can still run the ball and play bully ball, but look what happened with the Baltimore Ravens. You have a ceiling on your team when you do that, and I feel like, honestly, he's making a bit of a mistake. But Joe Alt, prospect, is awesome. I just think the Chargers had more pressing needs, in my opinion. At pick 6, the New York Giants are up on the clock, and they get Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU. This is another A. There is nothing to complain about here. He is a fantastic prospect. He has all sorts of speed. He's a little bit more of the slot type. I really thought they might go with Rome Odunze for size, but you can't beat Neighbors. He's a great player with excellent run after catch ability. He's going to be fantastic for the Giants. At pick 7, the Tennessee Titans took J.C. Latham, and here we're going to go ahead and put this one as a B. I'm a little bit lower on J.C. Latham, the prospect. I have a lot of questions, and especially if the Titans plan on transitioning him over to left tackle, I think there's a whole lot of questions on how he's going to translate. So I'm just not as high on that one. Maybe with Bill Callahan there, their offensive line coach, they will be able to develop him, and I'm just wrong, but I have questions about that. At pick 8, the Atlanta Falcons shocked the world and took Michael Penix Jr., the QB out of Washington. I am a huge Penix fan, and the Falcons, I understand taking a quarterback in this slot, so that way you have a guy for the future after Kirk Cousins. You're not expected to pick this high again. Cousins is supposed to elevate this team, so why not get your QB, get him now, let him be in the building. That way if something happens to Cousins, you have a guy you feel can step in and go from there. I'm going to actually grade this one out as a B, only because I do think it's kind of weird to go out and pay $180 million to Kirk Cousins and then draft his replacement in the same draft. So next up at pick 9 is the Chicago Bears. They took Rome Odunze, the wide receiver out of Washington. This here, easy. This selection is an A for me. I love Rome Odunze, the prospect, and to me, it made sense. He's the best value on the board. At pick 10, the Minnesota Vikings took J.J. McCarthy, the QB out of Michigan, following a trade with the Jets. This here is a pick that we all expected to happen. He fits the Vikings offense extremely well, and truthfully, I think that Minnesota got a pretty good value here. We're going to grade this one at an A-. At pick 11, the New York Jets selected offensive tackle Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. He is a great tackle prospect, more of a pass protector than a run blocker, but I think he can develop into one of the top tackles in the league. He has that type of potential. I'm not going to dump him based on one bad year, basically. He was really, really good as a sophomore redshirt, decided to return for one more year, and, it did hurt his draft stock a little bit, but Olu Fashanu is a great pick by the Jets. He's exactly what they needed. They didn't go flashy with Brock Bowers. This year is going to get an A from me. At pick 12, the Denver Broncos took Bo Nix, the quarterback out of Oregon. Now, this one here I'm going to be a little harder on. I don't think Nix is a first-round quarterback. He is the one throughout this process that I had questions about. Here's the thing, though. I'm not saying he's a bad pick, and I'm rooting for the guy to succeed. He seems really like a good guy, and truthfully, I hope that it works out and I'm wrong, but I'm going to grade this one a C. And honestly, the only reason it's a C and not a D for me because of value is because of the fact the Denver Broncos needed a quarterback. They didn't have a choice but to make this pick. I think they honestly thought Penix was going to be there and they could get him, and when he wasn't, they just went with the next quarterback available. At pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders took tight end Brock Bowers out of Georgia. This pick here, I gotta be honest with you, I'm pretty unimpressed with it. I don't understand what the Raiders are doing at times, honestly. They have Michael Mayer. I know it's Tom Telesco takes over, first time GM for the Raiders, longtime Chargers GM. I just don't like the pick, and I'm going to pan this one as well. Brock's a great player, but this is a C. I'm just not that excited by it. Next up is the New Orleans Saints at pick 14. They took Talise Fuanga, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State. Great player. Solid selection here. This is going to be a B plus for me. And I don't know if the Saints really were ever going to go somewhere other than offensive line. So at pick 15, Indianapolis is up, and they took Laiatu Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA. Now, this is a fantastic pick. He is technically sound, and he is somebody that's going to come in and be able to contribute immediately for the Colts. He doesn't have quite the upside of Dallas Turner, in my opinion, and maybe even Jared Verse, but he is a great player, and it's the reason why he was the first defensive player taken, and it's at pick 15, which is historic. They doubled the amount of selections before a defensive player was taken in this draft, but like I said, this is a pretty good pick for the Colts. At pick 16, Seattle took Byron Murphy, the second defensive tackle out of Texas. This is a good pick, and honestly, I think it's a pick that Seattle needed to make. Honestly, I did think they might go across the O-line, but I'm happy with this selection, and I'm going to grade it a B+. So at 17, Minnesota traded up from pick 23 with Jacksonville and took Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama. Great pick for the Vikings. They needed to replace Danielle Hunter. Dallas Turner's available, and I honestly didn't think they thought he had any chance of getting in striking range. So they do the smart thing. They trade up. They get Dallas Turner. I'm going to grade this one out at an A-. Next up is Cincinnati at pick 18. They took Amarius Mims, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. This is exactly the type of selection I figured the Bengals would make. He's a developmental tackle that they should be able to put behind Trent Brown, let him develop for a year, and then he can take over for him. This is a solid selection, but you're taking a shot on a player with high upside, but I personally feel like a really low floor as far as health and staying on the field and all that goes. So for me, this is just going to be a B-, just simply because of the risk involved. I do understand the selection, but I got to drop it a little bit. At pick 19, the Los Angeles Rams took Jared Verse, the edge out of Florida State. Now, this pick here is quite interesting. Jared Verse, to me, was a much higher rated player, but I understood why he fell. He's slightly stiff in the hips and the ankles. He doesn't have a lot of bend to him. He's just a power rusher, basically. But he's going to be great against the run. I love the selection for the Rams, and I think they made the right pick here. So I'm going to grade this one at an A. Next up at 20 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They took Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle out of Washington. Great pick by the Steelers. I didn't think he'd make it this far. This is another A, and you got to give the Steelers their due. That was a great selection. At pick 21, the Miami Dolphins took Chop Robinson, the edge out of Penn State. I understand why you make this selection. Kid's freaky and has a chance to develop into a star, but I feel like the Dolphins honestly got backed into a corner here, and because of all their injuries and the loss of Andrew Van Ginkel in free agency, they're kind of forcing themselves into having to take an edge. I feel like they should have traded up and tried to get Dallas Turner instead of sticking and picking Chop Robinson. This one here is going to be a B- for me. I don't love it. I understand why they did it, and you're taking a swing on a player here. They could land a star, but they could also miss, and he make no contributions at all. At pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles took Williston, Florida native Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback out of Toledo, the small school star, and honestly, this kid here is fantastic. I'm a big Quinyon Mitchell fan. This is going to be an A for me. I think the Eagles made the right decision. I'm not going to lie. I figured he would be the first corner off the board, but I thought there would be no chance he would go at pick 22. At pick 23, Jacksonville took Brian Thomas Jr., the receiver out of LSU. This here was a pretty good pick, actually, for the Jaguars, and I got to give a lot of credit. They were smart. They traded back, and then they still took that fourth receiver. So this here is going to be an A, especially with the trade. At pick 24, Terrion Arnold went to the Lions, the cornerback out of Alabama. This here's a great pick. Lions traded up, got exactly what they needed, and they got the second best corner in this class. I love this selection. This is an A. At pick 25, the Green Bay Packers took Jordan Morgan, the offensive lineman out of Arizona. This was a good pick. I thought he was going to be a little bit later. I didn't expect him to go to 25, and especially to take him over Graham Barton. This is why I'm going to pan this pick a little bit and say C. I honestly didn't love it. At pick 26, my Tampa Bay Buccaneers did take Graham Barton, the center out of Duke, and I think this was a perfect selection. I think the Bucs need interior O-line help. Robert Hainsey can move back to guard if he's still one of your starting players. Meanwhile, Barton will slide right in at center and be fantastic, I think. I love this pick. It's an A. At pick 27, the Arizona Cardinals took Darius Robinson, the edge out of Missouri, and I'm not as high on this pick. I'm gonna be fair to the Cardinals. I understand why they did it because there's a lot of people that really like Darius Robinson. However, I only get to watch one game of his, so that also makes this decision maybe a little less informed than I would like. I'm going to go ahead and grade this draft pick as a B minus. And honestly, I was going to say C, but because I'm a little bit uninformed, like I didn't watch enough film on him, I'm not going to pan it too much. At pick 28, the Kansas City Chiefs took Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver out of Texas. You know, they love speed, and I know this pick's going to work out. So honestly, I want to bump it up and say it's going to be an A just to make myself look smart in the future. But to me, I don't think Xavier Worthy honestly was worth trading up for. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was. I'm not surprised the Chiefs love speed, though. I'm going to grade this one out at a B minus. At pick 29, the Dallas Cowboys were up after trading back. They took offensive tackle Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, and another smart decision. I actually have to give them credit. They got the tackle they need, and they traded back and got some extra picks. Fantastic pick for the Cowboys. Good job. This right here, though, is a big swing on a developmental player. So for me, it's still going to be knocked down a little bit. It's a B+. At pick 30, Nate Wiggins went to the Baltimore Ravens. He was a cornerback out of Clemson. Could be the best cover corner in this draft. However, he does not like to tackle, and he's small. That's my biggest concern with him. And for me, I'm going to have to knock this pick because of that. I just don't love it. It's going to be a B for me. At pick 31, the San Francisco 49ers took Ricky Pearsall, the wide receiver out of my favorite team, the Florida Gators. And this pick is fantastic. He is an awesome receiver who can run routes. Honestly, I think he can play outside. He has more size to him than people realize. He is fast. He has excellent hands. He's a great route runner. And honestly, I think this kid is the perfect selection for the 49ers. And I expect him to step in and probably replace Jawan Jennings in that slot role. It will no longer be like a power slot, but I think he's going to slide in. He's going to add another dynamic piece to this 49ers offense. And I do not expect him to trade away Brandon Ayuk. I think he'll fit perfectly in that puzzle. So this year is going to be an A, and I'm a little biased because I'm such a Ricky Pearsall fan. So at pick 32, the Carolina Panthers traded up with the Buffalo Bills to get Xavier Legette, the receiver out of South Carolina. I understand taking this swing on Legette. I'll admit, though, I'm not quite as high on him. So for me, Xavier Legette is going to end up being a B minus just because I don't know that you needed to trade up over Buffalo to get him. You could have stayed put, and I don't think the Bills were going to take him, or else they wouldn't have traded with you. So I know another team could have been interested in trading up, and especially after it came out and Legette said they were going to take him at 33, and then Canales had to say a joke and, we told 50 other guys that. I think they were concerned the team was going to jump him in that slot to get Legette if he was their guy. So they might have done the smart thing to do it, but a B minus is the best I can do for this one. I'm just not that excited about Legette. Fifth-year senior who broke out finally after having no production previously is a big question mark for me. So we'll have to see if that works out, and I'm a little too low on him. But I'm LDJ11. We're going to be back later on. We're going to be breaking them down by division and honestly give a little bit of a shout out, kind of that franchise guy style. And I'm going to rate the drafts of each team. And you'll be seeing that post-draft. I may or may not do a day 2 reaction video. We'll have to see how it goes and how I feel tomorrow morning. But I'm LDJ11. I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be back with more soon. I'm out.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink.